Welcome back, sociologists. Let me tell you what I witnessed last week as I read through your work. You became sociological detectives, and you didn't even realize it. When Jay traced the menstrual synchrony myth from a 1971 study all the way to modern digital tracking apps, she wasn't just fact-checking. She was uncovering how scientific stories become cultural truths. When Valeria wrote about a nervous patient facing her first pelvic exam, she revealed how family silence about bodies creates healthcare anxiety that echoes across generations. And Ronald's investigation of the G-spot myth, he discovered something profound: how the search for anatomical proof of female pleasure uh, reflects deeper questions about who gets to define women's sexual experiences. You saw that even the most biological aspects of humanity, of our sexuality, our anatomy, our health, our reproductive cycles, they are never just biological. They're wrapped in layers of cultural meaning, family teachings, and social expectations. Overall, your analyses revealed three powerful patterns that run through all sexual health experiences. First, you discovered that silence creates barriers, whether it was cultural taboos about discussing periods, masculine norms preventing testicular health conversations, or family shame around reproductive concerns. You saw how what we don't talk about shapes our health experiences as much as what we do talk about. Second, you recognize that social identities create different realities. A 19-year-old college student discussing painful periods faces different challenges than a 46-year-old woman concerned about fertility. Age, culture, gender, and economic access don't just influence health, they create entirely different healthcare worlds. Third, you realize that bodies are never neutral territory. Every reproductive health conversation happens within webs of power, expectation, and social meanings that extend far beyond the doctor's office. So, overall, the recurring themes from your analysis were identity, such as age, culture, and gender, and how they intersect to create different healthcare realities. Again, we talked the power in medical settings and the effect of patient advocacy. And economic factors do determine access to reproductive care. Today we're crossing a bridge from the biology of sexuality to the sociology of love and intimacy. But here's what's remarkable. You're taking the same analytical tools with you. Last week you examined how social forces shape our most intimate biological experiences. This week, we'll explore how those same social forces shape our most intimate emotional experiences. When you analyzed why myths about menstrual synchrony persist despite scientific evidence, you were studying how culture creates meaning around women's bodies. Today, we'll examine how culture creates meaning around women's romantic roles. When you explored how masculine norms prevent men from seeking reproductive health care, you were analyzing gender expectations. Today we'll investigate how those same expectations shape men's approach to emotional vulnerability in relationships. The lens has not changed. We're still asking how individual experience reflect broader social patterns. We're simply pointing that lens at love instead of reproductive health. So remember that the connection is both sexuality and love are seen as natural or purely individual experiences, but sociology reveals how they're actually shaped by those cultural values and norms, historical context, those power structures, and specifically social institutions. The sociological questions we'll investigate today mirror the ones you tackled last week, again in just a different domain. Instead of asking, how do cultural norms affect healthcare communication, we'll ask, how do cultural norms affect romantic communication? Instead of exploring what barriers prevent people from seeking reproductive health care, we'll examine what social barriers prevent people from forming intimate relationships. Instead of analyzing how do myths about anatomy persist despite scientific evidence, we'll investigate how do myths about love persist despite relationship research. You've already proven you can see beyond individual experiences to recognize social patterns. You've developed what you've demonstrated you can question what seems natural or obvious about human sexuality. You understand that personal struggles often reflect broader social forces. Now we're taking these same detective skills and turning them towards love, dating, intimacy, and relationships. Because just like reproductive health, love is never just personal. It's always social, always cultural, and always shaped by the historical moment and social structures we live within. The mystery of human sexuality continues. We're just opening a new case file. And to do so, we are doing it using Chapter 7. This is Cengage's slightly modified PowerPoint. You can find the not modified version in the modules. Okay, so today we're tackling love and intimacy. And before anyone checks out thinking this is going to be awkward, because some of this conversation has been, love is not just about feelings that happen to you. It's a social phenomenon shaped by culture, biology, and power structures. We're going to examine how societies construct ideas about love, why your dating app behavior follows predictable patterns, and how economic factors still influence who we consider quote-unquote relationship material. This is sociology. This is not relationship advice. So let's look at what we'll cover today. We'll start by defining what love is and examine it from historical and cultural perspectives. Then we'll explore different forms and measures of love, followed by theories about love's origins. And we'll trace love's development from childhood through maturity, examine adult love and intimacy patterns, and finally discuss how love, sex, and intimacy work together in building relationships. Let's start by deconstructing the whole love conquers all narrative. For most of human history, marriage was an economic arrangement between families. Think mergers and acquisitions, not romantic comedies. The idea that you should marry someone because of feelings, that is a relatively recent social construction that emerged alongside capitalism and individualism. Even today, economic factors heavily influence partner selection, though we've gotten better at disguising it as compatibility. Research consistently demonstrates that love and intimate relationships provide significant benefits for physical and mental health. People in loving relationships show lower rates of depression and anxiety, better immune system functioning, and greater life satisfaction. Love provides emotional support, reduces stress, and creates a sense of belonging and security that contributes to overall well-being. Now, psychologists have identified different types of love. Romantic love is passionate love that includes sexual desire, physical attraction, and elation. Companionate love, also called conjugal love, involves deep affection, attachment, intimacy, trust, and loyalty. John Allen Lee identified 6 colors of love: eros, ludus, storge, mania, pragma, and agape. Robert Sternberg's triangular theory identifies 3 core components: passion, intimacy, and commitment. This image represents companionate love, the deep, enduring affection we see in long-term relationships. Unlike the intense passion of early romance, companionate love is characterized by emotional closeness, trust, commitment, and genuine care for another person's well-being. Research shows this type of love often increases over time in successful relationships. All right, so here's where psychology gets weird, and sociologists uses the psychology stuff, so maybe sociology too. But researchers have tried to quantify love using scales and surveys. It's like trying to measure the social construction of happiness or the cultural weight of success. These scales mostly capture Western, individualistic concept of romantic love, which tells us more about the researcher's cultural assumptions than about love itself. It's a perfect example of how science is not neutral. It reflects the biases of who is doing the research. So, given that and understanding that as our perspective and part of our nuanced where we're coming from, the question is, why do we fall in love? Behavioral reinforcement theory suggests we love because another person reinforces positive feelings in ourselves. When we experience positive or rewarding feelings in someone's presence, we develop stronger attraction to them. Love, from this perspective results from many mutually reinforcing activities shared with another person. Social influences such as religion also affects attitudes about various sexual behaviors, including sex outside of marriage, same-sex marriage, contraceptive use, and abortion. This couple demonstrates what behaviorists call mutual reinforcement. Basically, they're conditioning each other to associate positive feelings with being together. From a sociological perspective, we can also see how they're performing relationship happiness according to social expectations. Notice the body language, the setting, the way they're positioned. This is how our culture says successful relationship should look. Cognitive theories propose that we first experience physiological or behavioral responses, and then we interpret these as love. If we think someone likes us, we become more prone to find them attractive. Evolutionary theory views love as an adaptive strategy that helps us form bonds. From this perspective, each person seeks the highest quality mate available to enhance reproductive success and offspring survival. The physiological arousal theory suggests that we label our physical arousal with emotions based on context. We're more likely to interpret an experience as love when we're physiologically aroused for any reason. For example, sexual excitement creates intense physiological arousal that may be interpreted as romantic love, depending on the situation. Research has identified several biological influences on attraction. Pheromones are odorless chemicals processed by the brain that influence choice of sexual partner. We're more likely to be attracted to someone whose histocompatibility complex, or MHC, differs from our own. This promotes genetic diversity. Neurotransmitters like dopamine and oxytocin create cravings to be with a particular partner and strengthen emotional bonds. Early attachment experiences significantly influence our capacity for love throughout life. Research identifies 3 attachment types: secure attachment, where children accept caregiver departures; anxious ambivalent attachment, characterized by panic when left alone; and avoidant attachment, where caregivers force early emotional independence. These childhood attachment styles strongly influence the types of intimate relationships we form as adults. This image shows the foundation of all future love relationships: the bond between caregiver and child. The quality of this early attachment creates internal working models for how relationships function, affecting our expectation and behaviors in romantic relationships throughout life. Adolescence is a critical time for learning how to love and manage emotions. These experiences create the foundation for adult relationships. Teenagers develop both a role repertoire, varied ways to relate with each other, and an intimacy repertoire, collections of behaviors used to create intimate relationships. Most adolescents begin with unattainable crushes that involve powerful emotions and confusion, providing important learning experiences. Adolescent relationships like this one also provide crucial practice in communication, emotional regulation, and conflict resolution. While these relationships may seem simple, they contribute significantly to developing relationship competencies that will be used throughout adulthood. And let's talk about adulthood. In adulthood, achieving intimacy requires deliberate effort. It's different from simply loving someone. Attraction depends on several factors, including the field of eligible partners, proximity, similarity, physical factors, and financial considerations. Research shows these same factors influence attraction among LGBTQ individuals and across different global cultures. These cross-cultural studies reveal interesting patterns in mate preferences. Notice how financial stability and physical attractiveness are valued differently across cultures and genders. The age preference data here shows consistent patterns where men prefer younger partners, while women prefer older partners, though these preferences vary in intensity across cultures. I will say that this information is from 2019, and I have updated it. So in these particular graphs, and by the way, this particular one is truly from 2019, but the study was from 1989, which was the last millennium, just saying. In this graph, heterosexual males and females from different countries rate the importance of a mate's looks and financial prospects and their ideal age looks. In the good looks and good financial prospect graphs, participants rate from 0 to 3. And this actually goes to the article, this looks like it goes to the slide before it. I need to fix that. Well, let's move on. Okay, let's talk about some fresh data, because really that old data was dated. Okay, scientists cannot stop studying what makes people swipe right. A massive 2020 study looked at over 14,000 people across 45 countries, basically the Olympics of mate preference research. And guess what? The patterns we've been talking about, they're still there. Here's what's interesting from a sociological perspective. While the basic trends persist, even the ones from 1989, men still prioritize youth and attractiveness. Women still value financial prospects. The researchers found that intelligence actually ranks number 1 globally, followed by kindness. Physical attractiveness came in third, and socioeconomic status came in dead last. So much for the stereotype that everyone's shallow. But here's the kicker that should interest you as a sociology student. Your age barely matters for these preferences. Whether you're 18 or 50, which by the way, I'm 50, you're pretty much looking for the same things. This suggests these aren't just young people problems, they're deeper social patterns. The 2024 research that is done here, that has been collected here, again, it was collected in 2020 and published in 2024, adds another layer. Cultural and economic factors can completely flip these preferences. In some ultra-Orthodox communities, for example, women actually prioritize religious scholarship over earning potential because that's what grants social status in that context. What does this tell us sociologically? These preferences aren't hardwired biological imperatives. They're responses to social and economic structures. When the system changes, the preferences change. Your dating app behavior isn't just personal choice. It's you navigating the economic and social constraints of your particular historical moment in a specific context. So the next time someone says attraction is just natural, remind them that we find attractive, is deeply shaped by the society we live in. And it really isn't that boring. I'm sorry I yawned. The research proves that what we find attractive is deeply shaped by societies and the one we live in. So let's move on to adult love and intimacy. People who value intimacy tend to be more trusting, concerned for others, and willing to disclose personal information. Gender differences in intimacy styles appear largely influenced by culturally transmitted gender roles. Interestingly, research shows gay men are more likely than heterosexual men to believe in the importance of sharing intimacy with romantic partners. Cultural differences significantly impact how love is expressed. Passionate love is typical in individualistic cultures, while collectivist cultures often view passionate love negatively. Love has the highest importance in Western societies and the lowest importance in Asian nations when looking at survey data. Long-term love requires ongoing effort and commitment. Research consistently shows that older couples and longer relationships demonstrate stronger levels of intimacy and commitment overall. This image represents the goal many couples strive for, a lasting, satisfying partnership. Successful long-term relationships require continuous investment, effective communication, shared goals, and mutual respect for individual differences. Now, for the less Instagram-worthy reality, breakups and loss of love. Breakups activate the same neural pathways as physical pain, which explains why people say heartbreak hurts. But here's the sociological angle. How we experience and express heartbreak is culturally shaped. The idea that you should get over it quickly, that's tied to productive cultures. The notion that you need to win the breakup on social media, that's capitalism meeting romance. Sexual intimacy can express affection, intimacy, and love, but it's important to understand that sexual decisions may or may not be related to feelings of love. Before engaging in sexual relationships, individuals need to clarify their personal values, be honest about their wants and expectations, and communicate honestly with their partners about boundaries and intentions. When people begin feeling attracted to someone, this shows through increased intimacy behaviors like more eye contact, more physical touches. These attraction signals are often appear in body language, frequently initiated by females. This eventually results in what researchers call body synchronization, where couples unconsciously mirror each other's movements and behaviors. Healthy relationships require learnable skills. Self-love means being at ease with ourselves, accepting both positive and negative qualities. Receptivity shows that others were open to communication and approachable. Active listening involves providing full attention to your partner. Affection creates warmth and security. Trust develops slowly and requires consistency. Respect means acknowledging and understanding another's needs, even when you don't share them. Unfortunately, love can have negative manifestations. Jealousy is an emotional reaction to perceived relationship threats with similar responses across genders and sexual orientations. It's often related to attachment styles, and compulsiveness can lead to love addiction, where people become obsessed with relationships. Possessiveness can escalate to controlling behavior and even abuse. It's very important that we talk about something serious. It is true, relationships can involve abuse, violence, or threats. If you or someone you know needs help, there's always the National Domestic Violence Hotline, which is 1-800-799-7233, or crisis text line, text HOME to 741741. And the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 988. Remember, healthy love never involves fear, control, or harm. If you're questioning whether your relationship is safe, trust your instincts and reach out. You deserve relationships built on respect, not fear. If you would like local, there is at Tallahassee State College has counseling and mental health services. You can call them at 850-201-7726 or visit the Counseling Center in the TPP building, room 141, to schedule your initial consultation or follow-up. By the way, that's located directly across from the parking garage. Let's discuss jealousy a little bit more. This image captures the pain of jealousy, that emotional reaction to perceived threats to your relationships. Jealousy stems from fear of loss, insecurity, and sometimes unrealistic expectations about relationships. Understanding the roots of jealousy can help individuals develop healthier coping strategies and communication skills. So we've covered the theories, the research, and the cross-cultural data, and you can tell by the change of the slide, we are done with the book material. However, I thought I'd help you out, and let's discuss the cross-cultural data about love and mate preferences. Here's the thing. Most of the research was done before dating apps existed, before people were forming relationships through screens, and before you could literally shop for partners like you're browsing Amazon, which raises some fascinating sociological questions. Are these timeless patterns of attraction holding up in this digital age, or is technology fundamentally changing how we form relationships? This is not just about academic curiosity. This is about understanding your own lived experience through a sociological lens. I have to share with you now, the last time I went on a date with someone new was 1994. That's right, the last millennium. We didn't even have a lot of cell phones at that time. So, here's what you come in as researchers, because I'm not dating. I'm not going to tell you what technology has done to love. You're going to figure it out yourself by looking at the data. Also, I don't really know. Your assignment is to research how digital technology has actually changed romantic relationships. Then connect what you find to the theories we've been discussing today. The goal is not just to report statistics. It's to think critically about whether our love theories still apply in the digital world. And I lied a little bit. One of my friends researches Grindr. It's actually really super fun to do research with that person. All right, well, let's get back onto the activity. This activity connects everything we've covered today to your actual lives. You're not just learning about love in the abstract, you're analyzing the social forces shaping how you and your peers form relationships right now in this moment. Remember, you are not just students learning about relationships. You're living through a massive social experiment in real time. So let's see what the data tells us about love in the digital age. Okay, let's talk real quick about what your to-do list is. By Wednesday, I hope you will have been able to take the exam, at least for the first time. Remember, you can take it unlimited. It has unlimited time and unlimited attempts. The exam is based on questions from your lecture quizzes, including the multiple choice ones, so be sure to go back over them. They are also based on our discussion boards and many of the comments I've made about that. So the multiple choice questions matter, but not as much as the short answer responses. They're worth a lot more points. Be sure to look back over previous prompts and look at the comments I left for you. Those comments will help you have strong answers, and my goal is I hope that they really help you think about what we've already learned. The way I do exams is to help you learn. It is not to be intimidating or scary. This is all the learning process. That's why you can take it unlimited times and over limited attempts. Review the week 5 material, which is chapter 7 from the text. Review this lecture, which at this point is kind of a moot point, but the lecture always has all the material you need to be able to complete this week's learning objectives and all the activities. Keep that in mind. And then by Sunday, please complete the discussion board, which is worth 30 points. You've got this.